The Fast Food Podcast.
And judging by the record we played at the top of the show, there's a massive conflict happening. I rang Drizzy today because I kind of wanted to know how to approach this, just because it's so sensitive and it's such a complex situation. And also, I'm considering friends of mine on both sides. What we're talking about is the Israel-Palestine conflict. As we know at the moment, there's a war going on, basically. There's a war going on outside nobody's safe from. And there's rumblings on social media, which is what I hate about this.
Yeah, I tend to stay away from it. I intentionally don't go to social media for those things. I
feel you. And I feel that's important.
Yeah.
That's something that I really want to touch on as well, because you know what people do, it even happened with the Black Lives Matter thing. People just post for post's sake.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, this is in, this is the news, so I'm gonna post this, make myself look good, but you really don't even know what's going on. Like, you don't know what's happening, but let me put this out there so I look like I'm in the norm.
Yeah.
And basically, throughout this whole thing that's happening, because when I first heard the news, I heard obviously that Israel were just bombing mosques and hospitals and things of that nature. And I was like, oh gosh. Then I started seeing the social media platforms start piping up. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to say anything. One, because I don't know enough about it. And two, I kind of need to gauge where to approach this situation. Now, I got family and friends who are Jews, and I got family and friends who are Muslims. And again, it was about approaching it in the right way. I don't know how you want to approach it today. I'm going to throw it over to Drizzy because, you know what I mean? Like, because I'm bottling out of it right now.
Yeah.
No shit. Yeah.
It's a diplomatic one, to be honest.
But I just,
It's probably,
How you feel about it right now still?
It's never a good thing when you wake up to hearing about any sort of conflict that's leading to war and bombing and, you know, stuff like that. Excuse me. Things that really hit my soul is when you're seeing like pictures like a mum or a father who's cradling their child who unfortunately has transcended to another place. Like, these kids haven't lived their life. They're probably aged from the range of like 4 to 8. They haven't lived life, shit, innit? Do you know what I mean? And like with me doing my research and stuff, it's like, from what I gathered, it's that the basic analogy I can put it down to is, imagine someone comes into your house, you offer someone a place to stay. They come into your house, they stay there, and all of a sudden they start inviting their people to come into your house, and next thing you know, you're outnumbered. And then they're making you feel like you're a visitor, a stranger in your own house. Obviously your back's gonna be up against the wall. That's gonna cause conflict, because you've, kindness of your heart, allowed someone to come into your house. They've brought in all their Donnies and Donettes and all that. They've come in, and now they're telling you, hey, you've now got to live under our rules. Do you see what I'm saying?
So is it safe to say that it's a conflict over land? Is it safe to say that?
I mean, is it as simple as just land?
I think it's more than that, because you've got to think, if someone's fighting for land that's not theirs, what is in that land we can't see with a naked eye?
This is the question. They're fighting over, they're saying, so for example, Palestine, which is what is always been there. Palestine's always been there. And then there was only a small population of Jews in Palestine, 1900s.
Yep.
And then obviously the Jews in Europe needed somewhere to live and somewhere to go. Flip. British Empire took over.
Of course.
Handed over the reins to the UN and said, you deal with this. You deal with the actual conflict. And then Jews have settled. And then a war's happened, 6-day war. That war has ended up with the as Israelis winning and taking more land than they were supposed to. That might not be verbatim the
Yeah.
actual
Yeah.
facts,
but
that was
is enough to work from. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So, this is what I get from it. The situation. What I get from the situation is, innocent people are dying.
Yeah,
Right, on both sides of the coin.
yeah.
And what I'm hearing from people is too much one-sided things, and that annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Because what I don't like with human beings in general is we always do this. I'll call Joseph, and I'll say to Joseph, "Bro, this Donny just come up to me, punch me in my face. Can't we go link it, bro? Link me now. Let's go move to him. Rare. Joseph, being my friend, goes, "Bro, what's going on? I'm coming to check you. Let's go. Let's do this. Rare. What Joseph may or may not do is ask questions. What Joseph may or may not do is find out why the Donny punched you in the face. Now, if I give him that answer, which is usually what the person never does, he can have a more broader idea of what to do in this situation. And what we do is we tend to side a lot of the time. And this thing is dividing a lot of us, because what I'm feeling is Muslims on my brethren side, they're just saying, look, Israel.
Yeah.
Israel are saying Palestinians.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's why I had to start finding out what happened.
Yeah.
And and it depends where you go back to, because you can go back to last week, where again, as we said, bombings were happening in Palestine, and you can go, Israel are bullying Palestine. Or you can go further back and you can go, Palestinians let 2,000 rockets off from their strip into Israel. But Israel have the defenses and blah, blah, blah. Now, are we saying because Israel are the power that they should tone down their attacks? Or do we say Israel are the power and they're just trying to protect their people?
Well, I mean, there's many ways to skin a cat, right? You could do things forcefully, or you can come to some sort of agreement where, what's the word I'm looking for, man? With the heads, like more cooler heads.
Yes.
Prevail. And let's have I think you need to, in things like this, you need to have people speaking for each side who don't have an agenda and genuinely want to get the issue resolved. The whole world is watching. It's looking absolutely crazy.
Mad.
Our thoughts can only go out to both sides, because we're not playing one side against the other. Like, our thoughts can go to both sides. Like I said at the start of the conversation, family members losing kids, but something needs to be done, because the crazy thing is we're still dealing with a pandemic. It's not like it's done. We're still dealing with it. All right, things have opened up over here, but places like Canada are still in lockdown. India has got some next wave of COVID that is just dismantling them, and now we're dealing with this.
It's been a lot.
Do you see what I'm saying?
It's been a lot.
They're saying that Hadass, which is the governing body, because apparently Palestine is still not regarded as a state at the moment, and they don't have a government like Israel do.
Okay.
But Hamas, I should say, not Hadass. Hamas is the group organization that are the spokesman for Palestinians.
Okay.
They're firing rockets from schools. They're firing rockets from mosques. And so what does that do for the respective opposition firing back? And again, my thing is, who are we protecting? Is the innocent people dying on both sides? And it just seems like there's no resolution about what there needs to be done. This conversation throughout the podcast is going to be very important. And this conversation for me today is about leadership.
Right.
And leadership is very important when you're a part of a collective, when you're a part of a governing body, when you're a part of a group, because there's somebody that needs to lead.
For sure.
Now, everybody can be leaders.
Yeah.
And sometimes some leaders have to fall back to another leader so that
Absolutely.
they can just, bro, that's your
key.
part, that's your thing. And in this situation, all I'm seeing is bad leadership on both sides of the coin. And I don't think anything's going to be resolved until those two organizations really sit down and hash out what's going on. Because as I said, this is not new news. This is not, this conflict is 70.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 1942 or
It's
something.
crazy.
Palestinians have been like looking for places to stay. 'Cause, you know what I mean?
It's crazy. Do you know what I learned today? And I never knew. And just throwing it out there. Not all Muslims are Arab.
Right.
Not all Arabs are Palestinian.
Okay.
And not all Palestinians are Muslim.
Oh, wow. That I did not know.
And there's a demographic of Arabs that live in Israel. There's like 1 million Arabs that live and settled in Israel.
Right, right.
So the intertwines of the nation and the people that live in that district is so interwoven that for me it doesn't even sound like them against us.
Yeah.
It's more about the power and as who's got the biggest muscles or who can do the most damage, and it's no longer about the land that people own.
Yeah.
Corruption.
Yeah, of course.
Now again, I want no one coming for me because again, I don't know enough. But I just know what I know, and I'm doing my due diligence to know or understand. So if you're listening to this podcast and you have information, send it to us.
Yeah. If you're listening, you have the info, it's your duty to enlighten us and give us more perspective in regards to what's happening.
Yep.
We're trying to keep the balance of getting it from the news, as well as people who have ears on the ground, as well as people in our circle who are Jewish or Muslim.
Yeah.
But don't sit at home mad at us because you're like, oh yeah, nah, it's not like that. Let us know. That's the whole point of leadership. You pass the knowledge on to those who don't have that knowledge and access to it, so they're better enlightened moving forward, so they can bring your points that you gave us to the table on the next podcast.
You need good leadership to understand that it's not just about you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're now listening to the Fast Food Podcast.
The Fast Food Podcast.